Episode 7 picks up with the aftermath. Barry and Chris survived. And unfortunately for them, it was just bad timing. They showed up 2 minutes too late. Because the head of the Bolivians, Cristobal, flew in, touched down, and that's exactly when Taylor came in Rambo style and got himself killed. One of Cristobal's men goes to check who exactly just tried to kill them and sees that it was 2 guys in a military uniform. He also sees that somebody got away, so he starts looking for Barry. He radios Cristobal to tell him, and Cristobal decides to phone up Goran, which comes as a complete surprise to Goran. He explains to Goran that he had to fly in because he found out that Goran took his stash house, and if Goran had just called and asked to go partners in on the deal, he would have agreed to it. The picture that Fuchs had painted of Cristobal being this bloodthirsty monster could not be farther from the truth. He's actually a super nice guy. But since Goran just sent a hitman to kill him after killing most of his guys, he has to retaliate. Goran tries to explain that that same hitman killed a few of his guys as well, so it should be even Steven, but Cristobal doesn't see it that way. As Goran and Cristobal are talking it out, Barry is trying to elude Cristobal's guy. He also has an issue because he's supposed to be at practice that day, and his phone is blowing up from Sally wondering where he's at. Eventually, he's caught, but the Bolivian who catches him is unaware that Chris is standing right behind him with a gun. For whatever reason, though, Chris is frozen still. He can't shoot the guy, even though Barry is screaming at him that he needs to, because if that Bolivian radios to Cristobal, they're both dead. It's a pretty close call, but eventually Chris pulls the trigger, killing the guy, and the 2 get the hell out of there. But now Barry needs to get rid of the gun, drop Chris off, and get to practice. Doesn't leave a lot of time to fill Fuchs in. And Fuchs is a little concerned because he hasn't heard from Barry yet. Fuchs ends up calling up Hank, and Hank tells him Barry's dead. Because all they were told by Cristobal was 2 military guys. They just assumed that it was Barry and somebody else. And Fuchs, hearing that, thinks that it was Barry and Taylor. Fuchs is depressed. Even later that night, he calls up Hank, and the 2 start talking about the fact that they're shocked Barry isn't there anymore. After being all sentimental, Fuchs asks Hank, "So, are we good?" And Hank says, "Oh, no, we're not good. Goran is pissed at you, because you convinced him that Cristobal was this horrible monster and the Bolivians needed to die, but apparently he's a super nice guy, and now we have to go to war with him. So wherever you go, we're going to find you and kill you." Not great news for Fuchs. But Fuchs will feel better once he finds out that his friend is alive. Barry arrives at acting class where Sally first questions where he was because he looks like crap, but then fills him in on the fact that the police showed up, found all that money, and now think that Ryan was connected with the mob in some way. They then get ready for practice, and Barry just has one line to say, but Chris has been blowing up his phone. Chris is freaking out a little bit, and Barry tells him, "You gotta relax, man, and stop calling me." It distracts him so much that he misses his line. When he finally does deliver it, he delivers it pretty poorly. Gene sits him down to have a conversation because he thinks Barry's on drugs. And as far as Gene's concerned, that's a normal progression for an actor. He understands it. But when Barry tells him he's not on drugs, that's when Gene gets truly concerned. Because if Barry can't deliver one line, one simple line, then maybe he can't be an actor. So Barry has to stew on that for the rest of the night. But now that they've found the money, the cops have reopened the case. And they've bugged Goran's phone. So they have the entire conversation with Cristobal taped and recorded. As they're listening to it, they hear Goran talk about this military hitman that he hired that killed a bunch of his men as well. There's only one person that fits that description from the acting class, and it's Barry. Moss grabs Barry's picture and heads to Facebook looking for Barry Berkman, but she doesn't find anybody. And that's when Loach comes over and lets her know that police found a vehicle all shot up near an airstrip. 2 dead bodies, both military. Moss is convinced that one of them is going to be Barry, but Loach says, no, it's not. They're able to ID Taylor first, so they head on over to his place to search it around. It's at his apartment that they find a bag full of cash, just like the bag full of cash they found at the theater. It's the same exact amount, too, which leads them to believe that they split it. As far as Loach is concerned, Taylor and Ryan must have been working together. Moss isn't ready to jump into that conclusion because they need a connection. And then she finds it. It's Gene's acting book, where when you open it up, the first page says Ryan Madison. That is the connection that they needed. Even though he doesn't know it, this is a huge break for Barry. But he's still got a major issue. The next day, Chris continues to blow up his phone, so finally he meets with Chris. And Chris tells him, I never killed anybody, man. I was never in it like that. I was logistics. He starts blaming Barry for even making him do that in the first place. And eventually he says, we got to go to the cops. Barry looks at him like he's crazy and says, we're not going to the cops, man. What do you think I do for a living? This is it. And the people that I work for, they won't just come after you. They'll come after your family as well. Chris asks, what if I just turn myself in? But Barry reminds him, we're linked, man. Facebook, they'll put it all together. They'll find out about me. They'll find out about Fuchs. They'll find out about the acting class. Everybody will be dead. And Chris yells, well, I don't care about that. I killed a guy. You might be cool with that, but I'm not. I got a wife and a kid. And my wife, she knew. She knew there was something wrong, Barry. I told her I was going to the gym, but it's only a matter of time before I get back and she starts grilling me and I come clean. I'm going to the cops. I'm telling them everything. And Barry at first says, why did you say that? But then he screams, why did you say that? Because now Barry knows he has to kill Chris. And Chris knows it too. He knows he messed up. He tries to backpedal, telling Barry that he actually told his wife he was going to meet Barry, thinking maybe that would help. But it doesn't. Barry pulls out a gun, shoots Chris, and leaves the body, making it look like Chris committed suicide. He then heads over to the acting class where they have their big Shakespeare performance, and they're doing this in front of a bunch of talent scouts. Well, at least one talent scout that Sally invited. Barry's really in no rush, which is going to screw with Sally's performance if he doesn't arrive. Believe it or not, that one line is a big line. So Sally's freaking out a little bit, and no one's willing to help her because Sally's, some would say driven, I would say a bitch. But luckily for her, Barry arrives just in the nick of time, although he is not in the right headspace at all. He keeps thinking about Chris and his family. Right before they go out there, Sally explains the agent that's out there. He used to be Emma Stone's agent before she got too big and fired him. Sally wants that for herself. She wants to be so big that she can fire that guy. But before that happens, she has to get hired by him. This is her chance. Sally gets out there, starts performing Macbeth, but backstage, Barry is freaking out. He can't shake it. The idea of Chris's wife getting the phone call that he's dead, and he knows that it's because of him. It's one thing to kill people you don't know, but he had to kill somebody he did know. When it comes time to deliver the line, Barry comes out, bawling his eyes out, and says, my lord, the queen is dead. And he's really emotional about it. It draws out a great performance from Sally, one that gets noticed by the agent. It also gets noticed by Gene. When they're done, Gene goes to the back to see where Barry is and finds him, congratulating him on an unbelievable performance. He doesn't know where it came from. He doesn't know if Barry can get it again. And that's when Barry screams and punches a picture, busting his hand up pretty good. Gene realizes that whatever place Barry was in on the stage, he's currently still in, so he gets the hell out of there pretty quickly. Eventually, Barry collects himself, going to try to find Sally, where he sees the tail end of a conversation between Sally and the agent, with the agent telling Sally, call my office, we'll get a meeting scheduled. And Sally is on cloud 9. She starts thanking Barry for giving her that performance, because that performance led to her getting this meeting with the agent. She tells Barry, tonight you were a real actor. So whatever you did to get in this space, this is your new routine. This worked for you. Of course, Sally has no idea that in order to get to that space, Barry had to kill one of his friends. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Make sure to be nice in the comment section. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen there, I'll get it up in a few days, not to worry. And I have merchandise, so go buy a mug or something. It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, folks. Once again, thank you for checking out this recap.